Hi, I'm Pat Halpin, and welcome to this special edition of Meet the Leaders, coming to you from our state's capital, Albany, New York. We've been joined by New York State Assemblyman Stephen Stern. Assemblyman Stern, it's great to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Pat.
So today is, at least for the legislature, the new start of the new year.
It's a new day, and it's really an exciting day because with a new session, of course, presents great opportunity. And so I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to be here to continue the work that we started after having won a special election, and so I'm excited to be sworn in to begin my first full term in the New York State Assembly. But I'm also really excited about the opportunity to work with my new colleagues in the New York State Senate to get things done.
The New York State Senate, you now have a Democratic majority for the first time in a number of years. That changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
It really does. And as we came to a close in the last session, having passed a lot of very important legislative initiatives in the State Assembly, it was somewhat disappointing not to have the partners in the State Senate to be able to do the same. That's changed. And that, as I said, really presents, I think, tremendous opportunity, not just for all of us throughout New York State, but in particular our local Long Island suburban communities.
So from your perspective, what are some of the things that didn't happen last year that you're very hopeful will happen this year?
Well, certainly a very important initiative that was passed in the Assembly that didn't go forward in the Senate was protecting women's reproductive rights and a woman's right to choose. Child Victims Act was an important initiative that didn't go anywhere in the Senate. And so many of the things that we know are critically important to us locally in our suburban Long Island communities, like clean water infrastructure and our roads and our bridges and our tunnels to make our commutes a little better for all of our hard-working residents. These are the things that unfortunately had stalled prior to the close of the session. These are the things that we're really looking forward to getting to right out of the gate.
Yeah, locally I know that the water providers on Long Island were happy that the Assembly passed a bill lifting the statute of limitations on being able to sue for these chemical contaminants that are now showing up. That did not pass in the Senate last year.
That's right, and it's an important example because when it comes to protecting our precious environment, when it comes to preserving the water that all of us drink, which is important not just from a public health and safety perspective, but of course our local Long Island economy is so dependent on the quality of our water supply. That's a very important example of how we do need to move things forward.
And in that case, those contaminants are going to end up costing ratepayers, tens of millions of dollars to get out of the water supply. So being able to have a recourse legally in court to go after the chemical producers.
Yep.
Is important.
Critically important, and whether it is protecting ratepayers, whether it's protecting our taxpayers, that always has to be priority number one for us here in the New York State Legislature.
So let's talk about the taxpayers. Look, I remember when I was in office, the number one issue is property taxes. The number one issue today is property taxes. Right. The state has done a number of things like the tax cap to minimize the increases by local governments and school districts. What more can be done?
Well, I think that's going to be a priority, certainly for me, and I really believe for my colleagues both in the Assembly and in the Senate from Long Island, and that is, you're right, we do have a property tax cap, but we need to be able to rely on that as taxpayers going forward, and so I strongly support an initiative to make the tax cap permanent throughout New York State.
I didn't realize it wasn't permanent, so it could expire and we'd be back to the old way where in some cases you saw double-digit tax increases.
That's right, and that's not doing the best that we need to do to be able to protect our local taxpayers.
So the tax cap, in your opinion, has worked?
It has worked, and it's very popular among taxpayers, and it has worked. It's made sure that every level of government has kept their spending within the means. All of the decisions that now need to be made at every level of government has to be done in a fiscally responsible way, and that's absolutely the right message to continue with going forward.
So are you hopeful that'll pass? Because I'm thinking now that there are some groups that do not want to see that tax cap renewed. Yeah. Because there are special interests. I'm not going to get into naming any of them, but they would be happy to see it have to be renewed on a periodic basis as opposed to be made permanent.
Sure, that is a big part of the conversation that we're having. But at the end of the day, the tax cap has to be made permanent. We have to be able to give our taxpayers, more than anything, peace of mind, knowing that that their interests will always come first.
Getting back to the local issues, we've talked about the big issues like reproductive rights and tax cap and all that. What are some of the things locally that are important to you that that you're going to be focused on? You have a new state senator, a former colleague of mine on the Water Authority, Jim Gorin.
Yep.
So he's very familiar with Huntington and the communities that you represent. I presume the two of you are going to be strong partners. So working with a senator who you don't even have to explain what the issue is. He knows it.
That's right.
What are some of those local issues that you really want to focus on?
I'm really looking forward to working with Senator Gorin because, as I say, he is a real professional when it comes to so many of the issues, and his experience is invaluable, particularly when it comes to protecting our environment and the quality of the water that we drink. And you know very well that locally that means preserving our Long Island Sound. It also means sewer infrastructure, and that's critically important. And having had experience serving in the Suffolk County Legislature, where in many ways we began the local initiative to develop the plan and determine where the pipes are going to go. Now, with those plans having been developed, it falls to the state level of government to be able to provide the funding that's going to be necessary in large part going forward. That effort has begun for Long Island and Suffolk County in particular, but now working with a Senator Jim Gorin, I have every expectation that that is going to be something that we're going to work on together, we're going to focus on together and make good things happen.
What about school aid? That always comes down to more of a regional battle than a political battle. It's Long Island versus New York City, and upstate versus everybody else. How do you see that changing, especially with the new Senate?
I think that changes for the much better for us locally, and you know this, that we continue to send so much more from Long Island up to Albany than we get back in so many areas. And when we talk about education in particular, look, you know that the school systems are the jewels of our local Long Island suburban communities. And so I am really excited about the fact that we now have 6 senators from Long Island joining the veteran senators that have done a good job, but the 6 Democratic senators that are coming in are enthusiastic. They're committed particularly to education funding for all of our school districts on Long Island. That provides exciting opportunity.
As Tip O'Neill once said, all politics is local.
Yeah.
And I know you as a county legislator and now as a state member of the state assembly understand that better than anyone. And we'll never lose sight of that.
That's absolutely right. I know the community that I was sent here by and that I work for, and I'm very confident that my colleagues in the State Assembly and the State Senate understand that as well. And so one of the most exciting parts of today and starting out a new session with new colleagues coming in an exciting time, that I know working together we are all going to be very focused on ensuring that Long Island gets our fair share from Albany, and ensuring that our local Long Island suburban communities are preserved and that we continue to enjoy our quality of life.
Okay, Steve Stern, thanks so much. Have a great year.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being here. That's going to do it for this edition of Meet the Leaders. I'm Pat Halpin. We'll see you again.